All right, wow, that's another tough one in a row. I'm telling you, these movies that I'm seeing, they are testing the manliness. I'm crying more than a coal miner's widow. You know, being the age I am, obviously, I was nowhere near Vietnam, and like a lot of people, you know, we're getting to the point where what we know of it is from history, it's from classes, it's from movies, it's from things of that nature. But there is one thing I know for certain about Vietnam, and that is, no matter how fucked up you think it was, and no matter how much you think you've dealt with how fucked up it is, like you hear things and you get to a point you're like, okay, I've dealt with this, I understand what a shitty no-win situation this was, how horrible it was for the people involved. I understand that. It doesn't shock me anymore. And every time you think you've got a handle on it, you hear something else and you're just like, holy shit, this was even worse. You know, historically, in that respect, it's exactly like the Holocaust. You know, no matter how much you think you've dealt with the horror of it, that you've heard everything, that you've seen everything, you're like, okay, I get this now. I guarantee you something's going to come along that is going to say, no, there's even more fucked up shit that you need to hear about. That's painting this movie in a bit of the wrong light to start out with, because this movie is not about the fuck up. Well, it is kind of, but it's not about, you know, the fucked upness of Vietnam itself. It's dealing with kind of one isolated person and one isolated incident. So based on a true story, and I always feel like I need to stress that, because with those, you're never sure where does the fictionalization come in. You know, you're always a little hesitant to say something because you're like, okay, was that real, or was that something they added for the dramatic effect? So, but based on a true story, and during what they call the bloodiest battle of Vietnam, which that's got to be saying something, an airman who rappelled down from his helicopter came down. He was a pararescue, and he saved all of these guys, and ended up, you know, dying himself. So 30 years later, the guys that he saved are trying to get him awarded the Medal of Honor. So all of that part is true. There was an airman by the name of William Pitts. I can't remember how they call him Pitts, but it was short for a longer name. There was an airman, our pararescue, by that name. He did exactly what they said he did in the movie, and the soldiers really did spend all this time trying to get him the Medal of Honor. So for the movie, and again, I don't know if this is based on a real person or what, so in the movie, our main point of view character is Sebastian Stan as some kind of lawyer in the Defense Department. It's very unclear. I'm such a non-political person. It's really quite shameful how much I don't know. You know, there's a lot of the stuff in this movie that goes right over my head. But he's basically a ladder climbing attorney for the Pentagon, and kind of through just kind of bullshit, he gets landed with this investigation. And, you know, he's a guy who's just kind of out for himself. He doesn't see the benefit of this. He doesn't see how it's going to help his career and all that, so he doesn't really care. He's just kind of doing it because it's what he's ordered to do. And, of course, over the course of the investigation, he grows to care. He grows a conscience. He grows a soul. In Washington, they say Sebastian Stan's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. You get the drift. So all this on the way to getting this guy his Medal of Honor, rightly deserved. So that's the basics of the story. So I think the thing that I have to talk about this movie, and I think the thing that wins it for me, are the performances. Early on in the movie, I was originally just going to call this movie 50 Monologues for Male Actors, because it feels like all of the various army buddies he goes and talks to, or they all have their own Shakespearean-esque soliloquy that they give at some point in the film. Samuel L. Jackson has one, Peter Fonda has one, Ed Harris has one, Christopher Plummer has one. And I'm telling you that in the early stages of this movie, I'm not sure where this movie caught my interest, because for a while I was not into it. I was really not. I was just kind of going through. But I know that every time one of those monologues came up, I was completely engaged, because it's really well-written dialogue being performed by veteran actors, and it's like a masterclass in acting, watching these monologues. If you're an acting student, you should see this movie just to see those monologues done. Like, I'm seriously considering getting this movie to show my intro class next year when we're getting ready to do monologues. Like, this is how you perform a monologue. Look at the range of emotion he's showing. You know, it's not all one note. Boy, and there's some good stuff in here. I forget, maybe you don't, but I forget how good an actor Samuel L. Jackson actually is. Because we're also used to him basically playing, you know, Samuel L. Jackson, that screen persona that has benefited him so well. You know, we go to see a Sam Jackson movie and you're expected to see Shaft, Nick Fury, you know, whatever the name of his character on Snakes on a Plane was, you know, but that type of character. And you forget that, no, this guy does more than that. His monologue is one of the first ones, and it is really good. And you're just like, holy shit. Peter Fonda, who I just realized, and it's why it's at the beginning of this video, much to my shame, I realized watching this that I had completely forgotten to include him in the in memoriam section for last year, because he passed away, and I don't know how that happened. I don't know where that oversight occurred, but it did, and I greatly apologize, especially watching his performance here. He reestablishes why he was one of the great actors of his time. He's the main soldier, or former soldier, pushing for the Medal of Honor. So he is phenomenal. Ed Harris is Ed Harris. I mean, again, all these guys are great. I don't know, I can go through each one of them one by one, but I can't say much more than they're fucking great, you know? Christopher Plummer's monologue is probably the best one, where he's talking about, because he plays the soldier's father. And it's kind of this ticking clock on the whole thing, because they're trying to get this Medal of Honor approved before the guy's father dies of cancer. So Christopher Plummer just plays the loveliest, most wonderful Norman Rockwellian dad you've ever seen, ever. And he gives us this oh so beautiful monologue about what he missed about his son, or but why he was so proud of him and all this. And it's just, again, masterclass in acting. It's phenomenal. I also think, I'm going to save that for later. I'll save that for later. I think amongst all these veteran actors and these great performances, you got to give big ups to Sebastian Stan. Now, this is the first thing outside of the Marvel Cinematic Universe I've seen him do in a while. I remember him in things before he was cast as the Winter Soldier. But honestly, since then, I can't think of anything he's been in. But he's always been good. I remember when I saw him I forget what the show was, but he was in it. He guest starred on a show playing a villain, and he was really good. And I remember thinking, oh man, that guy's the Winter Soldier. This is gonna kick ass. And I was right. But you kind of forget because he's just played Bucky for so long. But he really, he plays it really straight here. He's the guy. He's like Adam West on the old Batman show. You know, Adam West always had to be the straight man, while the guest stars got to come on and camp it up and play really big and have all this fun. But he always had to kind of be the fixed point, you know? And you've got all these great actors playing all these great roles around him, and Sebastian Stan has to kind of be that fixed point. And he does a really great job of it. His character arc is slow, painstakingly slow in some instances. Slow, subtle, but clear. He gets a monologue, too. He gets a monologue towards the end. He has a really great scene with Peter Fonda right towards the end of the film where he's pulling almost a Good Will Hunting. He's doing the Robin Williams thing from Good Will Hunting, where he's coming at Peter Fonda with, what else? Basically getting Peter Fonda to admit that he feels ashamed, or he felt angry towards the guy, and it's a really powerful scene. What I remember most about that scene, not just the monologue that Sebastian Stan gave, but Peter Fonda's acting, and he's crying, and he's spitting, and you see, it looked real. In the movies, when people cry, it's always that Hollywood cry, or the shake in the one single tear. But he is like, it looked like a real person breaking down emotionally. So that was, I got off the subject of Sebastian Stan, but I got to say this about Peter Fonda. I mean, if you got to have a final performance, we all do at some point. This is one to be damn proud of. It was an excellent role. So why did the movie have a hard time grabbing me? Well, I think it took a while to pick up speed. Towards the beginning, it felt very much like your typical kind of Vietnam aftermath movie. It felt a little pat. And eventually the characters and the uniqueness of the situation win you over. I also gotta say, and I think this may just be me, again, because I'm ignorant about these things, and I'm woefully ignorant for a man my age. Just a lot of it did not make sense. So, I guess it made sense, but it was hard connecting the dots as to what happened and where. So, of course, this was the bloodiest battle of Vietnam. But at some point, Sam Jackson's character says it was friendly fire. They were shooting at the wrong guys. Or they were shooting at their own guys, or their own guys were shooting at them. And I was like, oh, is that the cover-up? And it's like, no, that's not the cover-up. Okay. So where did that come into play? I was very... or does it come into play? Was it just about Sam Jackson not wanting to talk to him? And I was very... Yeah. Then it turns out that a senator that a dick that Sebastian Stan is working with is now working for was the commanding officer of the whole thing, and he joins their side like that, like really quickly. They sit down to challenge him. He's like, no, we're going to do the right thing and get this guy his Medal of Honor. To hell with politics. It's like, yeah, okay, sure. And then it goes into another subplot, pardon me, about them trying to get him the Medal of Honor in a congressional hearing, and another senator shuts him down because he was pissed off that the other senator, blocked a tobacco bill or some shit like that. And it's at that point that, aside from always being pissed off about Vietnam and the never-ending shit show that was, it also reminds you, in no uncertain terms, just how much your government and your representatives don't fucking care about you. It really does. It takes pains to kind of point that out. Going, see these motherfuckers? They don't give a shit. They're just playing political football, and they use that term. You know, they don't give a shit about you or about the right thing. Fuck you. And you elected them, and you're gonna do it again. Because we love electing people who fuck us up the ass with baseball bats wrapped in barbed wire. And we smile and go, thank you, sir. Can you do it again? You're a gift from God, sir. Thank you. Sorry, off on a tangent there. Got a little... I don't get political often, but sometimes I do, and this is why, because once I do, I get really mad and just keep going. The movie tends to go off in different directions. It's got a slow pace, not in a bad way, but there are times you're just like, okay, is this scene really necessary? I also think, I guess the flashback scenes that they do to the actual battle are important because we actually get to see the guy whom we're talking about, this Pitt character, as opposed to just kind of having him be this vague, benevolent shadow. But still, I don't know. The flashback scenes felt like they just kind of dragged the movie out. I don't know if they were as necessary as they really needed to be, in my opinion. I will say this, though. This is what I was going to say before, but I stopped myself because I think I'll save it for here. This movie gets a lot of points because it is the only movie I have ever seen that had scenes that took place in Vietnam, and not once did they play Fortunate Son or that damn, stop, baby, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going round. It's like those two songs are like contractually obligated to be in every motherfucking movie about Vietnam. Every fucking one. They're like shorthand for Vietnam movies. You don't have to do anything. You just play that song and go, oh, it's a Vietnam movie. And this movie did not play either one of them. And I know that must have taken a great amount of training. That was probably harder than getting this guy his Medal of Honor, to be honest. But I took note of that and was very happy about it. So thank you, movie, for not giving in to the easy way out. But yeah, I don't know if those scenes... There's one other thing, and I feel very bad about bringing this up, but this is from a dramatic standpoint. That's all I'm talking about here. I am not referring to this guy. This is the first I've ever heard of this gentleman. So, and anybody who does what he does is a hero. Full stop. No argument. Lord knows I'm not brave enough to do what he did. Not even close. I wouldn't even, you know, but... So I want to make that clear. I'm talking about this from a dramatic standpoint, not from a historical one or a personal one. Is that from dramatically, I always have a hard time in movies like this when the guy they're talking about just sounds like he was Jesus come to earth. Nobody says anything bad about him. He had no negative qualities. He was the perfect he was Captain fucking America. And again, that's not a bad thing. It's just, I think it humanizes a person if just once someone says, you know, he picked his teeth. It really annoyed me. You know, I remember that from the Mr. Rogers movie. When they had the scene with his wife, and his wife said, you know, this perfect persona he puts on there, that's not natural. That wasn't just the way he is. He has to work on it. He has a temper. You know, he has negative qualities, but he tries to learn from them. So I just feel like in a movie like this, just if somebody just said, you know, he once spit on the sidewalk. I don't know. Just something to make him sound a little less like Chris Evans' character from Captain America. I just feel it humanizes them a little bit, dramatically speaking. Again, if this guy already is a better man than I could ever hope to be, so I'm not taking that away from him. I'm just saying, dramatically speaking. So yeah, I gotta say, this is the second movie in 2 weeks, or in a week, really, that I watched, and by the end, yes, manly tears. Cry. This is the movie that's going to make your dad cry. okay? And yeah, the last scene really gets you. It really does. Yeah, I don't know quite what else to say. It was a really well done scene, and you felt it was a very cathartic moment, and yeah, you feel, and you feel all the feels. Okay. So let's wrap this up. Getting close to home. So final grade for The Last Full Measure. I'm gonna go another B+ here. This is a week of B+ films. I think what makes it stand out is the amazing performances of these veteran actors. These guys really show why they are the best of the best of the best. And another great turn for a young person from the MCU and the next generation of Hollywood in Sebastian Stan, and I think a damn touching film. So yeah, okay, you know it'll be really funny like a bunny if I can see something like some of these that don't make me cry manly tears. I'm very emotional right now. Oh, but it does feel good to be back in the saddle again. I think we're getting this down a bit. We're learning the orientation. We're learning camera positioning in Frogzord. He's coming along. As always, thank you to everyone who watches Drive Home Reviews and who shares Drive Home Reviews with others. I do what I do because I love it, not for views or clickbait, but it is always wonderful when people like what you do and enjoy it. So thank you for always joining me for the drive home. So there are a couple other movies this week. I don't know if I'm going to get to all of them. I'm still recovering from the flu, but I'm getting better by the day. Feeling pretty good right now. A little tired, but feeling pretty good. So we'll see what happens, and we'll see how many more manly tears I shed. So thanks for joining me, and as always, drive safe, and I'll see you at the movies.